This program features live coverage of an African safari and may include animal kills and carcasses. Viewer discretion is advised.
The sun has popped out here in South Africa. It's going to be a glorious afternoon, and it's time for your live safari. Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to South Africa. Sunny South Africa, I'm glad to say, because this morning wasn't sunny, but the sun has now popped out. My name is Lauren. I do have Davy on camera, and I'm very, very excited about today. This morning was busy with a lioness and the prospects of 2 leopardesses. So today's safari is slightly different. I'm going to drive to get going because there's lots of areas I want to check. We've changed things just a little bit, and now, instead of the first 45 minutes being dedicated to kids, I guess the whole drive is dedicated to kids. Kids, you can ask your questions anytime, not just in the first 45 minutes. You still use the exact same email address, which is kidsquestions@wildearth.tv. Hello, butterfly. And you can send them in throughout the entire drive. Oh, it was landing. Davy, I think it's going to land. No, it's not. It's a monarch, the last of the butterflies. I wonder if we can catch it. Or have I just given Davy an impossible mission? That's also possible. But yes, kids, ask your questions all throughout the drive, the same email address, and hopefully, we will be able to answer them. And everybody else, send your questions in too, using the normal platforms, #WildEarth. And we're very much looking forward to hearing from you all. Now, just an update from this morning. I had the nicked-eared lioness from the Nkuhuma Pride. We managed to spend quite a little bit of time with her until she crossed out. Yes, those evil words, crossed out, across the southern boundary into Little Gowrie. We had fresh tracks for a female that I think was Tandy, but I suppose you never really know. And Kalamba was around this area as well. So that's what I'll be doing this afternoon. And just for your information, James, unfortunately, will not be out, I'm afraid. Rusty's not feeling very well. I'm going to hospital, shall we say. Hopefully Rusty will get better soon. It's not James that's ill, it's the car. The car is called Rusty. So I'm going to get searching. I would really, really like to see a leopard today. So that's my plan. I'm going to bumble on and hopefully find those spotted cats.
Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to and Beyond Pinder Private Game Reserve. My name is JARRYD, and we've got Marcel behind the camera. I trust that you're all having a fantastic afternoon. So we've come to an area where you might have become a bit familiar with over the last little while. And this particular spot, where we have filmed at quite a few times, seems to be a very good area to find some plains game. And last time we were here, there were about 30 to 40 zebra. And once again, there's about, I think I counted 40 behind us, in front of us. There's quite a few impala around, and there was 1 or 2 warthogs. And it got me thinking, what is it about this particular area that these animals find to be so attractive, and particularly around this time? We always come past here at about 3 p.m., and there's always probably the exact same amount of animals. And I'm sure it's got to do with just 2 things. One, we've got a little bit of water down at that waterhole. As we start to go more and more into winter, that waterhole is going to dry up. I give it maybe another month or so, and I'm sure there won't be any more water there. And then I wonder if we're going to find any of these animals still here. And then 2, you'll notice that the grass is still pretty green in this area. And because of the high traffic of animals to this waterhole and the amount of grazing that is done here, the grass that will then replenish this area will be often your pioneer grasses or your decreaser grasses, which are very rich in nutrients. And so it's a very high grazing area. And the great thing is that there are a couple of foals in this herd. So it is now just disappeared. So we've got in the road, we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 adult zebra and a baboon who is in the backdrop there, busy photobombing us. And then just on the other side of the zebra in the road on the left, you might see an extra pair of legs. And that is a tiny, tiny zebra foal. I reckon probably maybe only a week or so old. When we have seen this herd in the past, I didn't notice this foal with them last time. So I'm hoping that the adults move out the way so we can see that foal. But the foal is a very strange color at the moment. It is a reddish color. Bestone, it depends where you are. So every reserve is different. In Kruger National Park, East Africa, the Mara, and here in Ambient Pinda Private Game Reserve, we might regard herd sizes to be larger, whereas in the East Africa that is regarded as a small herd. But a big herd here on Pinda, anything between 10 to 15 zebra, is quite a large herd. Like I said, there's about 40 zebra around us at the moment. That is not one herd. It is actually, let me count, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I reckon there's 5 different herds sprayed around us at the moment. And actually in between them, behind us, is also a very large herd of wildebeest, of about 20 wildebeest. So yeah, at least here, a large herd is around 10, 15. Up in East Africa during the migration, the herds there are thousands and thousands of zebra all following each other. But there we go, we can finally see that foal, which is great. You'll see that it is quite brown, and it isn't brown for any other reason but that it is dirty. I think that foal must have been lying in the road a little bit earlier, and it was dust bathing, which is a very typical behavior of zebra. And with the coat still being very fluffy, I think the dust just tends to stick to it a little bit better, and therefore it looks a little bit more dirty. There we go, following mom. Alright, but I think what we're going to do is we're going to continue on. We're going to head into these open areas to look for cheetah this afternoon, particularly the mother and her 2 cubs. And in those areas where she was last seen is also a great area for black and white rhino. So I hope I'm able to find at least one of those 3 species for you this afternoon.
So we've also got a fairly open area, and we've got some elephants that are walking through it. They've just been for a bit of a drink and a dust bath, and now they're heading out to feed on the beautiful golden grasses of the Lowveld. Hello everyone, I'm Mike Anderson, and behind the camera is Gerrit. Welcome to Pridelands Conservancy. Wonderful to have you here this afternoon. And we're going to be traveling around this waterhole a little bit today, follow these elephants a little bit for now, but later on we're going to try and go back. A lioness was seen a bit after the game drive, walking down to the waterhole, so hopefully we can find her a bit later in the drive, which will be quite nice. We haven't seen this lioness for quite a while. She's a single lioness on her own, very young as well. So let's see what we can do when we look for her a bit later. But for now, let's look at these beautiful elephants. Right now we've got a wonderful elephant bum, lots of elephant bums. And you can see the dust on their backs there, the brown marks from where they were dust bathing after they had their drink at the dam. They'll often bathe in mud or dust to try and protect themselves from the hot sun, and also to scrape away parasites, as we've talked about quite a lot. But you can see them now just shaking off the grasses as they feed. Grass is nice on the back. Dust is nice on the back, but grass is nice in the mouth, not the dust. So they'll shake that off. Oh, and there's a crested francolin calling in the background. Sometimes as these elephants move through the grass, they disturb all sorts of little creatures. And when they get separated like that, they need to call loudly to find each other again. You can see that elephant is using its foot to dig up some of the roots of what looks like maybe a raisin bush. They seem to be eating a lot of raisin bushes at the moment. It's quite interesting. Elephants like to eat all sorts of different fruits, and at the moment raisins seem to be on the menu. Yeah, that bush is not going to be feeling so good after this. There goes another elephant heading over there. I think it's like whenever you have something and you have a brother or a sister and they just wanted whatever you had, the elephant's going to go and try and steal whatever it is. Amazing, such huge animals can be quite quiet as they move through the bush. Not when they're breaking branches, but when they're just walking through You know, that elephant that just passed us, the one in the picture now actually, is probably weighing somewhere around 3 tons. That's 3,000 kilograms. It's about 6,000 pounds. And, yeah, making hardly any noise at all as they walk through the bush. They've got wonderfully padded feet. Also pretty well camouflaged. With the dust on their back, they kind of just look like a big termite mound. They came away from the water quite quickly, and now they've settled down. I wonder if they smelt that lioness down by the water somewhere and didn't like it, because there's quite a few youngsters in this group of elephants as well, some very, very young calves. So maybe the mothers didn't want their babies close to the lion with big teeth, although this lion is very small, so I don't think she'd really be worried about trying to chase any elephants. She'd be hiding. Elephants are so intelligent. Absolutely love just watching them. Look how that little trunk works its way around the thorny, spiky bushes to get to whatever they want. And the ears at the moment are not flapping at all. It's nice and cool. I mean, the sun is warm, but the wind is nice and cool. The air is nice and cool. So the elephants don't need to flap their ears to cool down. They're staying quite cool as it is. Don't know if you can hear that in the background. All sorts of birds making their normal chirpy sounds. It's really peaceful. As these elephants are walking through the bushes, they do disturb lots of insects, and sometimes little birds try and catch those insects, so that's probably what we're hearing. Well, let's just watch these elephants as they feed slowly into the thicker bushes.
Welcome back to Swallow Kalahari, Genre and Dylan. It's great having you with us. For any new viewers, it's fantastic that you're able to join us on this adventure. We're just looking at these two roan bulls. We're sitting in this little hide, again at the edge of the waterhole over here. We've just got some little wooden bits and pieces and some old stones piled up in front. Old stones as opposed to new stones. Here we've got some roan bulls and giraffe in the background, but we'll just have a look at these roan bulls to begin with. This is our second largest antelope that we have on Swallow. They are massive, massive, massive. I just wish there was another species here, like a gemsbok or oryx or something, so you can actually get an idea of just how large these antelope are. Yeah, so our plan this afternoon is we're just going to sit at this waterhole and just wait for what comes down, whatever it is. The wind is good for us. The light is good for us. So I'm hoping we find something here. Well, we already have. Roan, giraffe. There was a little piggy, a warthog that came down earlier. Lots of bird life. There's yellow canaries, laughing doves, red-eyed bulbuls. There are, what's that one? Blacks with lapwings, namakwa doves. Just feel free to ask us questions, whether it's about whatever we're seeing here or other aspects of things that we've shown you over the past couple of days. Doesn't matter what it is, just chat with us, ask us questions. I love sitting in a hide, in a blind like this. It's always the best. And the longer you have a hide like this established, the more relaxed animals become, and because it's nothing unusual, it's second nature how they get there, that little structure's there, and it just becomes better and better and better. Those of you with us on the evening drive yesterday with those cheetah, so those cheetah are still out hunting, apparently. Trackers located them earlier this afternoon, but unfortunately they aren't in an area that we have signal in, so it was a bit of a frustration, but I am not going to complain about the stuff we're going to see this afternoon. I've got a very, very good feeling, as I do every single day. Ooh, I think it's a new bird. It's a horribly small thing flying in the distance there. March is asking, is there anything in the Kalahari that would eat these guys? By these guys, I'm assuming you're not referring to Genre and myself, and rather to the giraffe or the roan. Yes, they are. Not so much giraffe. I mean, they are really, really big animals. Our lions here, to our knowledge, touch wood, to our knowledge, they haven't caught adult giraffe yet. But yeah, leopard can take roan calves. They'll definitely take roan calves. We've seen wild dogs going for injured roan and roan calves. So an injured roan is a very different beast to a full-grown adult strong male, as an example, which is the ones that we saw here were adult males. And then injuries from fighting with others. Roan are as capable of fighting as any of the other antelope species, and of doing very, very serious damage to each other. So they can get killed in intraspecific fighting.
I have came across another business of mongoose. One's having a good old scratch down there. Yes, we see you all, including you perched on the top. Now, it's not the same termite mound, that I have seen them at the past few days. So I wonder if this is a different... Oh, they're grooming one another. Wow. That's a very interesting way to sit, to reach out those tricky angles. They're using their teeth as well. If they bite a little bit too hard, that could be painful. They've got very sharp teeth. But mongoose actually have a home range of about 1 kilometre square on average. And they have a network of mounds that they use. But interestingly enough, they do scent mark. They're territorial, and they will defend their own sleeping sites. And therefore, they need to mark their territories. Oh, right under the armpit. That must be good. It's very sweet, but aloe grooming is really, really important for these mongoose. Yes, we are watching you. You are on camera. So yes, I'll come back to that point. Seth, you're asking, are they mates? Mates as in friends? Yes, absolutely. Mates as in, well, lovers? Possibly not. So with mongoose, very, very similar to wild dogs in that respect, they have a business and there's a strict hierarchy. So it's a massive collective effort of all the mongoose together to support the alpha pair. So the alpha pair is, well, they are the ones at the top of the hierarchy, and it'll be the alpha female and the alpha male. So they're all ranked, and they're ranked by age. And the alpha pair are said to mate for life. Believe it or not, they stay together for life unless something happens to either the male or the female. And they are the most dominant over all the others. Females dominate males in dwarf mongoose societies, and all the other individuals support the alpha pair's breeding effort. So that means they themselves do not mate. The subordinate members always sort of bow down to their superiors when it comes to food, when it comes to safety, and when it comes to supporting the breeding effort of the alpha pair. So I think those were mates as in friends, just assisting one another getting to those awkward places. But before I got carried away with that scene, I was trying to say that they have a network of termite mounds within their territory, and they must scent mark them. And they do this using both cheek and anal glands to scent mark their mounds. But they need to continually rotate to keep the scent mark fresh. So believe it or not, they're said to move from one sleeping site to the next, which means they don't sleep in the same home each night. They move. Once that sun starts to set, they'll jump into a different termite mound each night, cover the entire extent of their home range, and this can take anywhere between 3 to 4 weeks. So after about a month, they'll be back at sleeping site number 1 again, if that makes sense. So they've got so many different homes that they just jump to. But they must mark them using those specialized glands. Just like any other territorial animal, if they don't mark their territory, then they can lose it. And yesterday I had the most incredible sighting that almost everyone I told didn't believe me, including my colleagues, until I showed them the photo. And that was the dwarf mongoose with the giant plated lizard appearing to be friends. The mongoose tried to groom the lizard, but it didn't go down very well. The lizard is, of course, covered in protective scales. Michael, you're asking how fast can the mongoose run? I'm actually not sure. I really don't know the speed of, well, a mongoose, but it's quite fast. They're very sort of nimble on their feet. They're small and they've got really flexible spines. So in the case of any threat coming from the air or the ground, they run. And they can run really, really fast. But I'm sorry, I don't have a speed for you. Sometimes when we drive up to a mound where there's mongoose, we have to sit for a little while before they relax and come out again. This pair is, well, they're particularly relaxed. They're sunning themselves, getting some vitamin D. But if you think of all the mammals out here that have to groom themselves, itch all those scratchies, scratch all those itchies in the awkward places, they don't have hands. So you see the likes of the leopards and the lions doing some extreme yoga moves to get to those awkward places. The dwarf mongoose here have it so easy because they can assist one another. It's not always easy to pick out the alpha pair. Delta, you're saying they're so cute. They really are. They're the sweetest. But looks can be deceiving. They are, of course, ferocious predators. Very ferocious. If you ever watch a dwarf mongoose hunting, centipedes, scorpions are experts. So looks can be deceiving. Yes, you know you're cute. And termite mounds are just the perfect location for these mongoose. And when it gets cold, especially now in winter, it's so cold at nighttime, they can all huddle together inside. Dwarf mongoose are the most common ones we see out here. But we do see slenders. Occasionally, very rarely, we see banded. Or there's a white-tailed mongoose that's nocturnal. We see sometimes at nighttime. They're much bigger with a white tail, believe it or not. Mares. There's lots of different mongoose species. Gavi, there's one just coming down the mound here. I don't know if we can catch it, but we might be able to see how fast it moves. If it runs, you'll be able to see how quickly. Okay. I have a funny feeling this one's not going to play ball and it's not going to run. So we're going to sit here with our business of mongoose for a little while longer and see what they get up to.
So we're just watching this beautiful speckled pigeon. It used to be called a rock pigeon. That's just come down to drink. He's quite nervous, but not because of us. He's completely oblivious to us. But the presence of potential birds of prey in the area. So typically what they do, they fly around, they'll circle, 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 and then come down and settle to drink. We've actually seen a gabar goshawk. It's this little raptor, stands about that high, flying around in this area recently. But it's very, very special, and we're hoping we're going to see it. The gabar goshawk, you get the normal color variant, which is grey, and then you get a melanistic one, which is stunningly, stunningly beautiful. It's pitch black with orange legs or pinkish orange legs and an orange beak and cere. So they're actually around here and they should be starting to nest now. We're just right on the edge of the start of their nesting season. So a pigeon like that would be a delicious meal for a goshawk. So we're just going to keep our eyes peeled, and we might get a couple of other birds. Jean's tick list is just skyrocketing now, which is, I'm very, very pleased for him. It's some giraffe. Now that giraffe is actually watching something way out to the right. We can't see. We've got dense vegetation on the other side of the dam, but it keeps looking towards the south every now and again. So maybe there's something on the inbound here. I just love sitting in one spot, but I think you might have guessed that by now. Sometimes you see great stuff and other times you don't, but that's every single bit of it is part of it. And there's always something to look at. Doesn't matter how small it is or big. Yep, the giraffe's looking there again. So there's something coming in. Okay. Gus has asked, what is the largest antelope species on Swalu? The largest one we've got is eland. These big eland bulls. They get to between 700 and 800 kilograms. That's a big, big, big antelope. These roan bulls, just over 300 kilograms. So, I mean, even with those, there's a big size difference. And then the smallest, we got steenbok, which are tiny. They're just a couple of kilograms. Oh, those giraffe are magnificent animals, She's very aware that we're here, but so relaxed as well. You can see if they're not relaxed, they're not going to stick around. I know what she's looking at. We can't, from Jean's angle, you'll never be able to see it, but there's another giraffe actually sticking out by the bushes, so he actually may come down a little bit later. There were lots of buffalo in this area this morning as well. So again, we are risking life and limb by sitting in this hole, taking a chance, whatever it takes. There's the giraffe sticking his head out now. Just watch this. We're just going to pan across very slowly. It's a beautiful sighting. Just give it a moment or two. See, there's no rush, but just look at that setting when we get around it. Wait for it, wait for it. Look at him there. There you go. So he's just having a good squiz at us. Yeah, now he's watching the other giraffe. It was watching him earlier. The eyesight is phenomenal. The eyesight, Megan has just commented that they're so much paler, and correct, they are much paler. Definitely pale. It's these dry, arid environments that makes them get that very pale color. But look what Chandra is going to show you now. How stunningly beautiful is that? The moon over the mountains. Wow, wow, wow. This has already made my day, made my afternoon rather. And as you're watching it, you can see it increasing, that gap between the mountain and the moon, they're increasing. Well, obviously. Look at that. It just shows how fast the earth is turning. And those of you who've got a pair of binoculars at home, even a very, very basic pair, it's wonderful viewing the moon through binoculars. It's really very, very easy. And especially on a day like today where we are, it's just crystal clear. You don't have that very, very bright, if you're looking at it at night, very, very bright. This is super gentle on the eyes. Yeah, Debbie says, looks like you can touch it, And I guess in some ways you can, that's not literally, but figuratively. I mean, it's right here, it's at your fingertips. It doesn't matter where you are in the world. And it's the same moon we all see. I mean, that's how they're going to get all philosophical there. But how cool is that, the same moon that we're looking at now is the same moon that you people are looking at wherever you might be. Mary says it's a moonrise, but this one, it's not a bad moon rising. Couldn't resist it. But it is very, very beautiful. I see a bad moon rising. We're going to go slightly back towards the giraffe now. I'm just going to sit here and absorb this beauty.
So our elephant was pushing over a knobthorn tree a moment ago. Now he's decided to wander off into the shade here, also probably watching that beautiful rising moon. Very, very well camouflaged. And then this green tree here, the reason why the elephants are not eating this is an apple leaf. The leaves sound like apples when you crunch them, but they certainly don't taste like it. It's quite bitter, quite dry and crunchy, and the roots of this tree are filled with a chemical called rotenone. So that means that it's not very tasty for the elephants. In fact, I hardly ever see the elephants eating this particular tree, hence why it is still standing when all the rest are absolutely destroyed. They will eat it on it if they are extremely desperate, though. But right now, this elephant seems to be enjoying the grasses. That's all it's been doing right now, is pushing small trees over. What I'm going to do is I'm going to try and move forward ever so slightly so that we can see this elephant just behind this apple leaf tree. Oh, wonderful. How's that for a view? So now you can see what this elephant is doing. All the trees that have been pushed over in this area, and the elephants are often around here, this leopard dam, and they push the trees over, and all the grasses that are protected from the sun and from other animals feeding become the elephant's favorite food at this time of year. So you can see there's these little white dots by the eye of that elephant. And those little white dots at the eye of the elephant, that is actually where dust, it's very dusty at the moment, a lot of dust has been blowing into the eyes of these elephants, and it's like tears. So as they produce these little tears, it washes the dust out of their eye and it collects right over there. So you can always tell when it's really dusty. So it keeps the elephant's eyes nice and clean. And you look at the skin of that elephant, you can see how cracked and dry it is. And that's often why they'll mud wallow, to try and put a bit of water on their skin and moisturize themselves before they go and rub on a tree or a branch. So you can see this elephant is still, the trunk is still dark with the water from when it was at the water hole and having a drink. So we were talking about how much animals drink the other day. And I actually did some research. Elephants can drink about 200 liters of water a day. Isn't that amazing? And they'll do it twice a day. So 100 liters in the morning and 100 liters in the afternoon. That's a lot of water, considering that that a glass of milk is about, a quarter of a liter. So, or a glass of water. It's a quarter of a liter. So this thing drinks a lot of water. Oh wow, look at all the little bumps all over the trunk. Do you see that? Those little bumps all over the trunk help it to grip all over the branches when it is pushing trees and pulling branches over. And it works with those tusks. So we saw the elephant earlier using its tusks like a bulldozer, pushing them underneath the tree and lifting the whole tree up and over so it could reach the grasses underneath. If we're lucky, we might see this elephant doing the same. What it's going to do now is use its foot. You see that? It uses its foot to pluck at the small bushes. So it'll hold the bush with the trunk so the bush doesn't move, and then with the heel of the foot, it kicks to try and loosen up the dirt. And then it will shake off whatever's left on the branch and put it in its mouth. Delicious. So Sebastian and Lana are asking, are these animals afraid of humans or scared by humans? Certainly. Fed by humans. Oh, certainly not. No, these elephants are not fed by any animals. We are in Pridelands Conservancy, which is part of the Greater Kruger National Park and the Transfrontier Park, the Limpopo Transfrontier Park, which means these animals live completely wild, just roaming around and eating whatever they can. If we started to feed them, they might become quite used to that and then cause problems. Many animals can cause problems if you start to feed them, because then they become lazy and all they want is to be fed. I know when I was living at home, I would go into the fridge 1,000 times and I'd never find anything to eat. But if I just asked my mother, she would make me something delicious. So then I got super lazy, and now I don't know how to cook for myself, which is a bit of a disaster. So don't do that. Be like these elephants. Find your own food. Mr. Jordan's class is asking what the tusks are for. So as I mentioned before, the tusks are really, really useful tools. So you can see this elephant is just behind the tree, but you can see its tusks very nicely. And those tusks are very pale at the tip and darker at the base. So the tips are used quite often to gouge at the bark. So the tree in front of it is called a marula tree. So they'll use the tusks to scrape the bark off that tree to eat the sugary sap that's just underneath. They'll also use it, as I said, as a bulldozer to lift up branches and trees and to snap branches. But not only as tools, but also as weapons. The males will fight each other to be whoever's the top, and the females will use it to protect their youngsters from any danger. So the tusks are super, super important. Well, this elephant is going to be walking into the bush. Let's watch where he goes.
Okay, good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to the sunset safari here at and Beyond Ngala. As you can see, we managed to find some beautiful kudu. So there's the one there, there's a few more on the left-hand side. It just went across the road. They're hanging around with this fairly large herd of impalas. I think most of these animals have just been coming across from the river. So you see, you're with me this afternoon. We got OD behind the camera. And we've just been driving around really, trying to see what we can find. We went past the lions right at the beginning. They're still sleeping there, relaxing, doing nothing. So we thought we would drive out here. We've been into some open areas. OD and I are hoping to find a cheetah, but as of yet we have failed. But we've seen some cool stuff like impalas like this, the kudus. You know, starting to appreciate the small things that I'm not going to see for the next little bit. So awesome to see, and it's also really cool to see like so many, well, these two different species hanging around together. You know, you often see, especially these sorts of plains games, you know, the ones that live out on the plains, something like the kudu, the wildebeest, the zebra, the giraffe, the impalas, the warthogs, all together. And this is exactly one of those things, you know, safety in numbers, everyone's together, everyone protects each other. But I think they're just going to feed here for most of the afternoon.
So we've got a little group of warthogs that has come down to the water to drink now. Again, alert, but not worried. And any animals normally coming down to a waterhole will be alert. And where our colleagues are, we don't have crocodiles here, but where our colleagues are working, a lot of those water bodies do have crocodiles. And you just can imagine how tense you need to be to evade a crocodile attack. So, you know, our animals here are spared that. And they'll often just wade right into the water to start drinking, in fact. But waterholes are focal points for predators, whether it's a land-based leopard, lion, things like that, or aerial-based, your raptors, birds of prey. It'd be nice if one of those warthogs starts wallowing now. I don't think he will because the temperatures are cool, but you never know. That's an adaptable animal, a warthog, and so widespread. Get them over massive areas of southern Africa. Our trackers always laugh. They say they've got a shovel on the end of their nose because the end of their nose is so hard and so tough. And, you know, because they use that all the time for rooting out, you know, rooting around in the soil, digging out grass roots, tubers, things like that. That's a big boar. The one right at the back is a male. It's B-O-A-R and not B-O-R-E. But we don't know that for sure. This big female giraffe is being nice and inquisitive now. She was staring at those warthogs earlier. Seth has asked, why do the warthogs have such small tusks? Well, it was actually just these individuals. You get ones here with much longer tusks as well. And, yeah, so the length is very, very variable depending on the age of the animal, wear and tear on the tusks, you know, normal feeding. And then also in some environments, the tusks can be quite brittle compared to other areas, and that makes them more prone to breaking off. But yeah, we get warthogs here with really big tusks, long curly tusks. That Edward has asked, are warthogs aggressive? Edward, they can be towards each other. Warthogs can fight. But interestingly, when you look at those tusks, it's not those long, big, curly ones that are the danger. Beneath those, the lower tusks are razor sharp, razor sharp, and those are the ones that can do the damage in fighting. And they're very well able to defend themselves. Of course, you know, if you get caught by a lion and you're that size, well, you're going to be a lucky piggy to get away. But they'll certainly definitely put up a good spirited defense. I've actually watched leopards catch warthogs and then get away from them. Oh, the pig getting away from the leopard.
So it seems like there's giraffe all over the place today. And just a quick one when looking at these giraffes. So let's have a look at that giraffe on the far right. So by now, most of you would have heard us talking about how to tell the difference between the males and females. Now you'll notice that this particular giraffe has a tuft of hair on top of his horns, and therefore you would think immediately that it is a female, because that's generally how you tell the difference between a male and female, is by looking at the top of the horns to see if they are bald or not. But in fact that is actually a young male, and so you've got to be very careful when looking at the horns to just try and assume that it's a male or female based by whether there's hair on top of the horns or not. And the reason why he still has his hair on top of his horns is because that's how they're born. They're born with the hair right on the top, and with time and with age and with a bit of fighting and necking, he'll start to lose that hair. And so when they're young like this, the best way to figure out whether they're a male or female is to look for that belly button looking thing that sits sort of midway on their belly, which is known as their penis sheath. And he does in fact have that. And even at a young age like he is at the moment, their testicles are also very small. So it can be very tough to sex a young giraffe. But there's just a quick tip on showing you that you mustn't just quickly jump to an assumption. Whereas if we look at the two on the left, we've got the mother. You can see how thin the horn is, and the fact that she doesn't have that belly button looking appendage. And then that foal, now what sex is that foal? Because the horns, they have hair on top, just like they should, because both males and females are born with that. But we do not see the belly button. It's not a belly button, I just like to call it a belly button. But what looks like a belly button, it does not have that, so we know that that is a female. Often people make mistakes by trying to sex a young giraffe based on the horns itself. Now, very interesting that they both turned around very quickly like that. So the wind did gust from left to right, and I wonder if they didn't pick up on the scent of something up ahead. Ah, that's what they saw. There's a warthog running in the long grass and running away. So they must have heard it, probably not smelt it, because the smell of a warthog wouldn't bother them. They know what the smell of a warthog is, and they can distinguish the smell of a warthog against that of a lion or a leopard or a cheetah. Cheetah's probably the most likely of the carnivores that we're going to find in this area where we are at the moment. Go ahead, Clive. No, just the males from the last couple of days on Untitled. Sorry about that. Was just getting back to one of our colleagues, Clive, about where the male lion was seen this morning. And so you can still see the young giraffe, who wouldn't have as much experience as the mother, is still watching that warthog as it trots off. Now, maybe through lack of experience, it's not 100% sure yet exactly what that was. Whereas the adult to the right knows what a warthog looks like and smells like, and she knows that there is no danger in that direction. This is a great vantage point, and in this particular part of the reserve, I love to come up here just to scan all around the area. And one of the reasons why I like to park up here. Oh, look at all those oxpeckers which just landed on the giraffe's back. Whoa, that was a lot. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Yep, there comes number 10, number 11, and I'm probably not even counting all of them. So that particular giraffe is a taxi for oxpeckers at the moment. Wow. So it took off from the young male to the right, which is presumably her old calf, or sorry, her old foal. Calf's right, sorry. I'm getting a little bit mixed up now. Her old foal. And I'm sure that young male will soon join up with some other younger males, or leave his mom and go find another group. And now she is getting a proper cleaning from all those oxpeckers. A lily age 11, although their Afrikaans name is kameelperd, which means camel horse, they are not related. Maybe distant relatives, but not very close relatives at all. And for those who didn't quite catch that, so Afrikaans, which is one of the languages which is spoken in South Africa, they have lovely descriptive names for quite a few different species of animals. Like a hippo is a siakwi, which means sea cow, and the giraffe is a kameelperd, which means camel horse. And maybe one of the reasons why they could call it that is because a giraffe walks like a camel, but it runs like a horse. I don't know, it's got a little bit of a head-like shape of a camel. I'm sure there's a better reason why they call it a giraffe horse.
So the closest relative to the camel is the long horse.
So those giraffes trotted away into the distance. We've got an animal that won't be doing much trotting at all. These are terrapins, very, very closely related to tortoises that most of you might know, or turtles that are in the sea. These are terrapins. They are freshwater tortoises, if you will, water tortoises. I've heard them referred to before. Taylor's called them that before. They're not tortoises, though. Terrapins are a little bit different. Where tortoises are herbivores, these terrapins are mostly carnivores. They'll be snapping up any bugs and insects that wander too close to the water, and even fish, small fish. They do enjoy those as well. I've even seen them coming up to buffaloes. When the buffaloes go and wallow in the water, these little terrapins will swim up and start plucking off any bits of dead skin if they've got wounds or sores, or they'll pluck off the ticks around the soft underbelly of the buffalo. I think the buffalo really enjoys it, to be honest. It's like a free cleaning session. So you see, these terrapins are reptiles, which means that they get the warmth from the surrounding environment. So what they're doing now, the water is probably quite cold. It is winter, so they are sitting on this log that's busy floating, or probably stuck on mud at the shallower part of this dam, and they're warming up so that they can function more effectively. Remember, when they're very, very cold, they can't move around very well or digest things very well or do anything really well. Interesting how they've got their heads all popped up. They need to put their heads up, exposing as much of their soft flesh around their neck as possible so that they can warm up as quickly as possible. Probably also helps them to see danger, though I don't think their eyesight is very good at all. Now, these terrapins are quite small. We get two different types, two different species. We get serrated hinged terrapins and we get marsh terrapins. Now, I'm not going to lie to you. Telling the difference between the two is something I've always struggled with. But these are quite small, so I assume they're probably marsh terrapins, because marsh terrapins only get up to about 2 kilograms. Serrated hinged terrapins can get very huge, more than 7 kilograms. That's big. It's like maybe a large house cat would be about 7 kilograms. So for something that lives in the water and swims around and eats little bugs and fishes, that's quite a big size, especially for a reptile. Actually, there's some places in the Kruger Park, which is what Pridelands is part of, where if you drive your vehicle through a small river crossing, terrapins think that it's a large animal and will actually come swimming over to the vehicle, thinking that they can pluck some tasty morsels. So you have to go through there pretty quickly before they surround the car. So these little ones here will be enjoying the fact that this dam is getting a bit of algae growing in it. So the algae that's growing in this dam that you'll see now is actually something that a lot of bugs might start eating. And so these terrapins will swim along that algae, plucking any bugs that get caught up in this algae. The algae is there because we've gone through a bit of a warm patch, been lots of sun, and as the sun heats up the water, the algae starts to grow and bloom. And then when it gets, and there's not that many bugs around at the moment, so they won't be able to eat it. So there's a question about whether terrapins grow out of their shell. Absolutely not. If a terrapin didn't have its shell, Dove, then it would be naked and very, very vulnerable. No, what happens is as they grow, the shell gets larger with them, just like what happens in tortoises. They grow, so those scales on the back of the tortoise, on what's called the carapace, are called scutes. And as the terrapin grows, the scutes get larger and they get rings. Something like what you would have learnt about trees. When trees grow, they get rings. So same like terrapins. When they go through the summer, there's lots of food and they grow quickly. The rings grow quite large or quite fast, and they get very broad. And during the winter, when their growth slows down because there isn't enough food, the rings become very narrow. So you can almost count the rings on the back of a terrapin or a tortoise to find out just how old they are, or at least an approximation. I don't know how old terrapins will get because they're quite small, but I know some of the tortoises that we get here in South Africa, the largest one is called a leopard tortoise, and leopard tortoises can grow probably over 70 or 80 years old, maybe even older, the very, very large ones. I saw one once that was so big that I reckon if I sat on its back, it would still be able to walk with me on it. It was a massive leopard tortoise. I wouldn't be sitting on these little terrapins. Shame. They wouldn't like that very much. King has asked a very good question, and one that I'm definitely going to have to research. But how many eggs do terrapins lay? That is definitely a question I do not know the answer to. But I suppose if they're similar to the other chelonians, which are what are the tortoises, terrapins, and turtles, they probably lay quite a few. It wouldn't just be one or two. It might be as much as 20 eggs, maybe more, because their offspring are very, very tiny, and they've not got hard shells that can protect them like these larger ones. So they need to give birth to, or they need to lay lots of eggs so that they can ensure that at least a few of them survive. It looks very nice and comfortable where they are. I'd love to be in that waterhole with them.
Wild Earth relies on support from viewers like you carry on broadcasting our daily live shows. A small donation goes a long way in helping us on our mission to connect the world with nature. Please visit our support page to see how you can help and become part of the Wild Earth family.
Guys, we've just got this giraffe that's just watching us over here. We've had a couple of other animals coming in to drink, but they're just drinking and they're moving off again. So, yeah, we're just going to carry on sitting here very quietly and hoping that we get some other things coming down. These blinds work really, really, really well. And literally, even in your back garden, you'll be surprised if you can put up something in your garden or sit inside with just a window open. It's just remarkable when animals don't see like a full human form, how relaxed they actually become. And it really affords you a good opportunity of observing them, often at close quarters. Here's this speckled pigeon that's drinking in as well. I don't know, Chandra, if you can get this one. This is a very, very, very pretty bird. It's quite a common bird. You find it over huge areas of Africa. But look at those colours. That maroon, pinky purple on it, the white spots, sear around the red around the eyes. Beautiful, beautiful birds. Remember I said they come in, they're always quite nervous because, these doves and pigeons are very important food items for a lot of these birds of prey. So they're never just going to come down, land and drink and not be a little bit nervous. There we go. Okay. What a special afternoon, eh? Wow. Gus, I think I'm getting the name right there, has asked, do giraffes stay in one place for a long time? They can, if they, like around a waterhole like this, you can see they'll linger around a waterhole, and then they'll move off. But if you look at the areas that they cover, the home ranges, they don't defend territories, but those home ranges can be very, very, very small, literally a couple of square kilometers to 500-600 square kilometers, so massive areas that they can cover. But and also the speed that they move at is very, very deceptive. They're very stately, very graceful animals that appear to walk very slowly and feed along at a relaxed pace. But you can get this group of giraffe, this group of giraffe here today, and by tomorrow morning they could be 5, 6, 7 kilometers away. And I think a lot of it has got to do with the amount of disturbance on an animal. Here they're very relaxed, and so there's no huge need for them to move off. There's a little springbuck coming down straight behind it to drink now as well. Arno is aged 11, has just asked a nice question, a very cool question. He says, why do giraffe have horns? Those horns are also called ossicones. Actually, the correct name is an ossicone. Okay, but the reason they have those, it's not so much for fighting, because like most antelope use them for fighting or for display, and it's almost certainly that these horns or ossicones are actually more for visual recognition of others, in terms of not so much, well, are you a giraffe, yes or no, but rather in terms of, that's a young bull, that's an adult bull, that's a adult cow. Because if you look at that giraffe that's drinking, you can see on the top of those ossicones, there's actually hair. There's a little tuft of hair. And on the big bulls, if a big bull comes down, you'll actually see on the top of those ossicones, it's bald. And so with their extremely good eyesight, they'll actually be able to tell from a distance very easily. Even if the bottom of the giraffe is covered, because that's like where all the working parts are. So even if that's obscured from a distance, other giraffe can easily pick up which is male, which is female. Yes, I love the way they... Okay, we've got something else coming in from another. I don't know what this is. Got a big animal. Ooh, my la la la. Ooh la la. Got a herd of buffalo coming in to drink. Oh my goodness. A whole herd of buffalo has just arrived. Well, a whole herd. Olivia, I think I heard that question right. Do giraffe make friends with other animals? I don't know if they make friends, but they certainly tolerate other animals. Oh, this is fantastic. Look at this. This one closest us. I'm just going to talk very softly here. That closest one is about 20 meters, maybe 18 meters away from us. Very, very, very close. And we are sitting outside. The vehicle is far away. We've just got a couple of little branches between us and those buffalo now. This is so exciting. Wowzers. This is incredible, guys. This is what it's about. And the beauty of this. Yeah, Debbie says now it's a party. Yeah, absolutely. And what I really like about showing you this, I'm talking softly, not because I think they'll be aggressive, but I really don't want them to get a fright and then run off. This is widely regarded by many people as one of the most dangerous animals in Africa.
this front one is like 18 meters or so. But they're standing drinking, and there's no issue here. This is just absolutely incredible. If they do run towards us, I think I will leave Chandra here, and I will go get help. Yes, this is amazing, man. With the giraffe coming in behind them like that. This is just absolutely, this is heaven. And look at their backs. Look at all the leaves from the acacias. As the acacias are drying, the leaves are falling on the buffalo backs. Veronica, that's a very, very, very good question. Veronica's asked, are there any rules about the guides wearing aftershave or deodorant so the animals can't smell them? I think Chandra is wearing Isimiyaki at the moment. Or maybe is that Chanel number 5, I'm not sure what you're wearing. But no, neither of us are actually wearing deodorant or aftershave. There's no rules against it. But I think as long as you're showering regularly, I think we'll smell okay. I hope. I don't know what Chandra's opinion is, but we always I'm speaking very softly here. We're always very, very careful to try to choose our position so that the wind is in our favor. In other words, the wind is always blowing from the animals to us and not the other way around. That's the best thing we can do. Just look at the scars on that one. This is just an amazing sighting. This is an incredibly good sighting. And this is the thing, you never know when you're going to encounter something like this on foot in Africa. Wow. So this is a group of bulls. It's a bachelor herd. And these bulls will stick together. There's a couple of very old ones in this group. Rocky's asked the question that I don't like answering. Rocky has asked, do we have an escape plan? No, we don't have an escape plan. That's the reality. Those buffalo could cover this distance literally in seconds, and it would not give us time to escape. And that's why I will trip Chandra, and I will make good my escape to go get help. Well, I'm just so pleased. King has asked, will those buffalo attack those giraffe? No, they won't. I'm just winding everyone up here that these buffalo are actually very, very docile animals. They can be aggressive, but in a situation like this, the risk is absolutely minimal, I promise you. There's no reason why those buffalo would attack us or the giraffe. And that's why I'm talking softly, so as I don't frighten them and make them run away. And they've also got no reason whatsoever to go for the giraffe. Wow. Caitlin has asked, how good is a Cape buffalo's vision? Its eyesight, it's very good. It's very, very, very good. There's nothing wrong with their eyesight. I just want to see if we can get this old bull on the right. Genre is doing like some contortionist maneuvers here. side of his flanks and on his face. That's one of the old bulls in this group. He'll be one of the dominant ones in this bachelor herd. He might actually put his horns in the mud. Oh, this is just such a beautiful sighting. And exhilarating. It's an exhilarating sighting.
So we've got some awesome birds called southern yellow-billed hornbills, and they were busy digging in some what looks like buffalo dung or elephant dung for little bugs and insects that are hopping around. They are prolific hunters of insects, but they also eat lots of fruits, so sometimes they might even eat some of the grass seeds. But right now I think it's running around trying to catch any small bugs and insects. And these hornbills are quite comical, the way they hop around on their feet. They don't fly very well. They love to run around on the ground. I think the big bill stops them from being able to fly really agilely. You often just see them flying in a straight line. If they turn their heads, they'll cause a bit of wind resistance. But it's always interesting to watch them, because they've got this amazing, if you've ever tried to throw something really small up and try and catch it with 2 fingers, it's almost impossible. But these things, I was about to say, watch what it does with its beak as it picks up the little insects and flings them into its mouth. But then it flew off. Of course, I probably pointed towards it without thinking. And then it's an old guiding habit, or birding habit rather, that you never point at a bird, because of course the minute you point at it, it's going to fly away. So anyway, it did fly away. But hornbills are my favorite. I think I mentioned the other day, if you were watching, that it's one of my mother's favorite birds. So it's always really cool to watch them, because I think how my mother would really like to watch them as well. Always so fun to watch. So what we're going to be doing is we're going to head out a bit further into the bush here and see what else is walking along this lovely green drainage line.
So these buffaloes seem to have finished their drinking for the afternoon. And they're probably going to start moving off into the bush. I was actually hoping one of them would start rolling a bit. But I think the temperatures are cooling down nicely now, so they're probably not going to need to do that. But you never know. These little birds that are flitting around on the water's edge. Okay, there's something else. Oh, look what's coming in now. Watch this, guys, watch this. Oh, my word. Just be patient. Sorry, Chandra, this is very tough to get Chandra to get this right, because it's just because of the angle. Oh, look at this. It's a big, old sable bull. It's a very, very old sable bull. Ancient sable bull that's just coming to drink. Look at this. Broken horn. Oh, wow. Mary, that's a great question. Very good question. Why are the horns of the buffalo so white? Now, all animals' horns, doesn't matter what it is made of keratin, the same stuff as your fingernails. But they've actually got oil inside them. Okay? The horns have got oil. But what you find is, as you go deeper and deeper into winter, okay, those horns start drying out a bit. And they actually start scratching a lot on trees. And that's because the horns are starting to dry out that outer layer. It actually gives it that white appearance. And if you look at this magnificent sable that Chandra is just on, with that broken horn, wow, what an animal. What an animal. You can see his horns are also very pale. That's an old sable bull, that. Wow, he could tell some stories, eh? Goodness gracious. Goodness, what an afternoon. What an afternoon. always asked, do the female sable look like the males, or are they different? The female sable is actually a lovely russet brown colour. The name sable is actually a reference to the colour of the animal. Sable is that lovely rich red colour, real rich red brown colour, which is the colour of the females. Oh wow, this is amazing. These buffalo are just chilling here still. Oh wow, this is just such a beautiful, beautiful afternoon. And this, guys, this is sitting in one spot, in a little hole in the ground, with some sticks in front of us. Watch this buffalo, watch what he does. Look at this middle one here. With that white patch on his side, he might turn towards us. He's actually scenting now. Oh, no, he stopped. I was hoping he would turn towards us. Oh, this is just magic. There's that little lapwing in front of him. The buffalo's watching it. That's cute. Yes, that is adorable. So that's a blacksmith lapwing. Malcolm, this is awesome to see. Totally, totally, totally awesome. And to be actually sitting here on the ground with these animals, these massive animals, so close to you, is off the charts exciting.
Okay, so we are trying to track down a leopard. So I think it's actually, so further back we had tracks of what looked to be a male leopard. Tracks were fairly large, maybe the Makoti male. I think it was too small for the Tamboiti male. But then we got to a junction where there were kind of forks like this, and I lost the tracks. So in an area like that, those tracks were fresh in terms of after the rain, because that's the nice thing now, you can tell because of the rain from this morning. But, you know, there was elephants and there was rhino and there was impalas everywhere on top of it. So it was quite hard. So then I lost them, but now down this road, I've seen tracks of a female now. Slightly smaller than the male ones. That's how we know it's not the same one heading down the road. Also seems to be after the rain. They're fairly fresh. You can actually see them relatively clear for a track. And now it's just trying to figure out. So in this area, that could be either the Inyala female, Schutzerade female. Oh, it's possible. It's possible she may come down into this area, but hopefully we can actually find one, and then we'll be able to see who it is. Yeah, that's my own. We know where the lions are. They're not doing anything exciting. Oh, James. What would I like to see? So me and OD were talking about cheetah. We haven't seen a cheetah in. You haven't seen one yet, have you? So it's like, what, 6 weeks at least since we've seen a cheetah. So James, a cheetah would be amazing. But otherwise, I'd actually just like to see probably the Inyala female, actually. You know, because we saw Mokochi the other day. We know how he's doing. We know, you know, he's good, he's healthy, he's fine. Where the Inyala female and her cub, we haven't seen in quite a while. I mean, the last time I saw them was when they had that carcass stolen out in the east. So they would be really cool to see, James. That's what I'm hoping these tracks are, is the Inyala female, and she's somewhere down this road.
Just looking at that massive size of that giraffe bull. And again, he's just staring at us. He had a quick drink just now already as well. The buffalo are ambling off slowly in the distance. This is the way to spend an afternoon, eh? watch this with us. This is just like, that's first prize. We've got these two buffalo bulls are kind of sparring with each other. We're going to just see if we can actually see that nicely. Now that one's just moved off. There we go. Now they're going to move off and go to grazing grounds for the evening, and they'll graze and browse, so they'll feed on leaves as well as on grasses. That giraffe is still... Oh, Fish Eagle has just asked how many species have we seen in this one sighting. I'm going to take a fly. I'm saying probably 20 species. But I'm going to start counting them now. And I will tell you on our next, when you're with us again, in the next couple of minutes, I'll give you a rough idea of what we've seen here quickly. So it's always very challenging when you got birds flitting in and out like this to actually get the camera onto them. So some things are just like in very, very briefly and they're out again. So we've got like some challenges in terms of the logistics of it. So that's why we can't like jump around from all the different species. But I'll do a quick head count and I'll come up with a figure quickly. James has asked, what is the average lifespan of a giraffe? In our area, these animals are comfortably getting to 15, 16, 17 years old. But again, depends on your level of predation. In areas where you get high mortalities from lions, the lifespan can be somewhat reduced as well. But they can go to over 20, well over 20 years older. Yes, what a beautiful setting. Luke Age 5 has asked, do giraffe have good eyesight? Their eyesight is brilliant. Brilliant, brilliant, brilliant. If I'm out and I'm looking for predators, as an example, and there's some giraffe around, I always keep looking back towards where the giraffe are, because they don't miss a thing that goes on around them. Their eyesight is exceptionally good. He's going to drink now. He's going to drink shortly.
We are having a very quiet day here. We've looped around for Miss Tandy, but can't seem to see any sign of her moving out from that block. We bashed through for a bit, but no luck. So I think we're gonna check some water holes and then see what we see. There's lots of tracks for elephants. It would be nice to bump into a herd of elephants. I haven't actually seen or heard them yet, but they've definitely been around. You can see the mess they leave behind. pull over and have a look at the road. The west is very quiet these days. It tends to be quieter in winter because there's not many water points. The pans in the west have all started to dry up, and the movement of animals in the west have also started to dry up. So I think we'll need to stay east today. Ah. Ravi, we have a little squirrel sitting on it. Oh, look, look, look. That was a live hunt right in front of me. We just missed that. A dragonfly caught a fly. Okay, let's see if we can get the squirrel. Good afternoon. The animals are loving sitting on termite mounds. They actually retain a lot of heat, so on a cold winter afternoon you will find that many animals will sit and enjoy sunbathing on the top of the mound. So they'll get the heat from above, from the sun, and then they'll also get the heat from underneath on their tummies. Linda, you're saying, the squirrel is saying, hey, this is my best side. It is posing, isn't it? Sometimes squirrels run faster than lightning away, but this one, you're right. Right side is the best side. I think it's real. Pretty sure it's not an ornament. Are you real, Mr. Squirrel? Yeah, you're saying amazing, isn't it? Sometimes it's nice to look for the smaller things too. It's not all about the big animals. Although you do want to catch up with the predators and the elephants, sometimes you've got to stop and appreciate the smaller animals too. And squirrels are very important to the ecosystem out here. You can also pay attention to squirrels' vocalizations. They will alarm for predators, but not all vocalizations mean that. Okay, little squirrel. We're going to leave you be. I can see you breathing. At least we know it's real. It's not an ornament after all. Okay, little squirrel, we're going to continue our bumble. And let's see what we can find. I think we're going to head to Galago Pan and hopefully somebody's having a drink.
What a beautiful setting for these warthogs. Like perfectly matched piggies. In that lovely light with the ripples, the reflection of the water on their flanks. They've just got down to the water to start drinking. Wow. That's even watching common species, it doesn't have to be something rare. It doesn't have to be something big and scary and exciting like a buffalo. It can be the simplest things that are sometimes the most special things to watch. Wow. Those little lapwings, those lapwings are going for insects along the water's edge. So any animal that comes in drinks can actually disturb little things, which puts them up into the area where these lapwings can actually catch them. always thought it must be so good. After like a long day in the eating dry, dusty grass and roots, to get to a waterhole and you can drink nice, cold, cool water. Wow, that lapwing is right there, right at that pig's nose. That pig's missing a tail. That pig doesn't have a tail. You see that? It's had its tail chomped off by something. Wow, there's a story in there, I'm sure. I can actually hear them from here. Maria has asked, are these wild pigs? Yes, they are, Maria. These are wild pigs. They're very, very common in these areas. In fact, in many areas across southern Africa, they're super common. And they're a very, very important part of a predator, for predators in many places as well. On Swalu, things like lions, wild dogs, leopards. We'll eat them. We've actually seen a honey badger go down a burrow and catch a baby piglet. A piglet is a baby, but catch a piglet, run out with it, and then the mother warthog came along and chased that badger, and the badger dropped the baby, and it got away. How incredible is that? You know, the chance of seeing something like it is so small. Wow, look at that. Fafia's asked how deep are the warthog burrows. Their burrows can go down to about 1.5 meters, but not much deeper than that. And that's the temperature inside the burrows then is nice. It's a very comfortable, stable temperature right through summer and winter. Burrows are extremely important for animals out in these environments, whether it's aardvark or pangolins or spring hares or batted foxes or cape foxes, aardwolf. There's just so many things that use burrows. And you get all different size burrows. Some tiny, like the meerkat burrows. Some really big, like porcupine burrows. And some animals actually burrow holes from other animals.
So what this big grey moving figure through this long grass is a white rhino. So it looks like there's a mother in the front and its calf in the back, which is a very typical walking position of white rhino, which is pretty much the opposite to black rhinos, although it's a bit of a rule of thumb. It's not always the case. You will often find that the white rhino mother walks in the front and the calf behind her. Whereas with the black rhino, the calf is... Actually, sorry, I lied to you. I just had a bit of a brain wobble. This is the opposite of what it's supposed to be. So generally when you... Apologies for that. Generally with black rhino, you find that the calf follows from behind. And with white rhinos, the calf is in front. So this is one of those great examples of how no matter what you read in the books, animals love to prove you wrong. And I have seen it more so than what you would think. One of the reasons why you might be finding in this case why the calf is following the mom like a black rhino would is because of the terrain that it is in. And that is probably why you also find the way the calves follow the parents, the difference between black and white rhino. So generally white rhinos are in open areas, and so the calf will be in the front and the mother behind, because the mother can watch over the calf, she can see what's up ahead, and she can sort of nuzzle the calf where she wants it to go. Whereas with a black rhino is normally in an area like where this white rhino is now, where it's nice and dense and thick, and so she doesn't know what's around the corner, So she wants to be up front as the first line of defense, and then the calf behind her. So maybe that's why in this case the calf is following the mother. So maybe in fact it is more about the type of habitat as opposed to the species of rhino. But I guess we will never know if that is the exact reason, but I think this is a very good example of why it could be more the habitat than the species. So very typical with white rhinos to have a more solitary group, so a mother with its calf. You very seldom will see them in groups. If you do see them in groups or herds or crashes, as some people will call them, it would be more of a temporary association. So if she carries on the direction she's going at the moment, there is a waterhole right at the bottom of this valley. And I'm pretty sure that is exactly why she is heading in that direction. So they are diurnal animals, so generally active during the daytime, early morning and late in the afternoon, as you can see here. Their thick grey skin can get quite hot during the day. So in the middle parts of the day, you would typically find them lying in the shade of trees. And I think she's heading off to the waterhole now just to have a drink. Sinak, initially the bond is very strong. So this little white rhino calf will stick with its mother for about 2.5 years. It can be up to 4 years sometimes. But unfortunately for this calf, around the period of time when the mother is going to be kicked out, you'll find, about the period of time that the mother's about to give birth, she'll kick that calf out. And that calf will be kicked out and will go join up with another calf. There is the possibility that that calf may come back and join up with its mother later on, maybe in about 6 or 8 months' time. But typically what would happen is that calf would then join up with another female with a calf at about this age, and is what we call a satellite calf. So, Sinak, there is a bond, but unfortunately it is for a short period of time of about 2.5, 3 years. And then it's out you go.
Got these schemes back coming down to drink now as well. That light is ridiculously beautiful. And look at those markings on that animal. It looks like it's been airbrushed. Looks so finely painted. This is a species that doesn't need to drink, but they will drink when water's available. Something spooked them there, it's not us. They're looking at something else. And there's still more gemsbuck coming in. Okay, there is something else. What is that? I'll tell you now, there's something big coming in there. Oh. It's another buffalo. It's another buffalo. That's what spooked them. I think they weren't sure about those buffalo when they came in. It's too buff. So we did a species count. We're on 21 species in total that we've seen here. That's the mammals and the birds. That's excluding plants. From where we're sitting here, you would easily count 40 species if you counted the plants as well. Anna's just asked, how territorial are buffalo? They're not territorial. But you get dominant bulls within a group, and they're the ones that'll fight to compete for the females, but they're not territorial. They're very, very, very social animals, and they'll tolerate a lot of other buffalo in the area. Wow. Just everything about this afternoon is beautiful. Everything about it. missing the art wolf yesterday. Victoria's just asked why would the gemsbuck be scared of the buffalo. So Victoria, it's not that they were actually scared of the buffalo. I think those buffalo came out from behind the bushes and they startled the gemsbuck, so the gemsbuck wasn't sure what it was at first approaching. That's why they immediately backed off. And now they actually come back down to the water. So I think it was just that initial nervousness that they had there. So I wonder if these ones they couldn't have met up with those other buffalo, because that first group went off in a different direction, and these ones came down later. I mentioned earlier about the acacias drying out going into winter. You can see all those leaves, those little acacia leaves on the top of that buffalo's back. So that tells you that they've actually been walking in amongst the bushes, underneath the branches, possibly even lying down, resting under them during the day. Looks like they've got confetti on their back. Or chocolate sprinkles. These two are quite a bit younger than that other group that moved out. You see, the horns aren't as thick, and then the colour is a bit paler than the others. What a special afternoon. Rosemary was just saying how horns can be such a fearful weapon on buffalo or on gemsbuck, and you're totally right. But what's very interesting, talking about that, you find a lot of animals who've got very simple horns. Well, to our eyes, simple horns. Very sharp, very straight, nothing fancy. Those are often the ones that can be the most dangerous in terms of using their horns for fighting, because there's no frills, there's no fanciness about them. They are designed for fighting. Animals with big curly horns, those are often used for display purposes. It's not to say that they won't fight, but fights very seldom result in serious injuries. Some interesting bathroom behavior going on here. That buffalo was peeing in the drinking water. Anushka's asked, what is the biggest recorded buffalo horns? The largest horns, to my knowledge, and I stand to correction, anyone's welcome to jump in here. Buffalo from East Africa. We've got the largest recorded ones, and it's probably close on 60 inches from tip to tip. Or maybe even just over 60 inches. But I'd have to confirm the exact figure. These ones here, I'm guessing, this one closest to us, that spread is probably 28 inches. To give you some perspective there. Wow, and the moon has climbed so high in the sky, we're not even going to go to it, but it's... Oh, we can. There we go, there we go, there we go. There we go. So it's way, way, way up above the mountains now. Look how beautiful that is. So some people say they can see a rabbit in the moon. Other people say they can see a lady holding a baby. That's what I see. But yeah, I don't know. This giraffe bull that was at the water earlier, he actually drank a bit, and then he stood up and he started looking when these other two buffalo came in again. But I'm hoping for something else coming down now. Not that I'm trying to be greedy here, but this has just been the most beautiful afternoon. Such a flurry of bird activity. Giraffe, gemsbuck, buffalo, warthogs, springbuck earlier. It's just beautiful, man. So just so you know, if anyone's wondering about safety here with us in Buffalo, our vehicle is about 60 meters, 70 meters away from us, so it's actually quite close.
We did have a beautiful lilac breasted roller for you, but it flew off. We do have the moon. I've managed to find the moon today. 84.3% full. And it's in the waxing gibbous phase now. Waxing means it's getting fuller, and waning means it's getting smaller. So we're building up to full moon. Oh, apparently you've already seen the moon. This is the moon from Juma. Isn't it glorious? Which means there's going to be a lot more ambient light around at night time. And of course this does affect many of the animals out here. From the predators, the apex predators, to also the prey species, or what may be considered prey species. Both wild dogs and cheetah, who are normally diurnal, are said to be more active and can hunt during full moon. So we're actually on our way to try and find a very special owl for you. So let's hope we get lucky.
This is so awesome, everybody. I'm going to whisper just because these rhinos are close to us. And I do find that if you don't talk very loud, they sometimes come walking right on by. And what is absolutely awesome about this is not only do we have 3 rhinos, this is exactly what we were talking about 20 minutes ago, about a female rhino with her calf. That calf gets kicked out and joins up with another female rhino with an old, not an older calf, but a calf. And that's exactly what's happened over here. So on the right, we've got the mother. You can just see that completely by the side. She's about 1.5 tons. And then the rhino that's the closest to us now, looking at the size, this is her calf. It is the smallest of the 2 calves. And then behind her, we have what we call the satellite calf, which is the calf that will, after being kicked up by its mother, go join up with another female with her calf, or another rhino of about its age. This is so spectacular. Look how close they are. So you can see, if you look at the ground around them, this is an area where rhinos probably feed quite a lot. Look how short the grass is. And so we like to call this area where it looks like a lawnmower has come through, when it is in fact from the rhinos, we call it a rhino lawn. Now watch as this calf's busy feeding, or this sub-adult's busy feeding. Look how close its lips get to the ground. So with those very wide lips, which is another name for the white rhino, a wide-lipped rhino, it is busy pulling on the grass as close to the ground as it can. Generally, it won't pull up the roots, it's just cutting off the tops of the grass where it joins to the ground. They don't want to pull the roots up because the roots are going to have sand on them, and that sand will wear down their teeth quicker. This is spectacular. Now you'll notice that there's a black bird just to the left of these rhinos. That is a fork-tailed dronga. Philip, I wouldn't say that they're typically sociable animals. Sociable animals you'll generally find in large herds, maybe like elephants, buffalo. That being said, they're not sociable. You do find rhinos moving into an area where maybe the most I've seen together is about 12, a crash of 12 rhinos. That is a temporary association. There is a little bit of an interaction between them, not negative. They're coming up, they greet each other in essence. They feed around each other. They could be in that group for a couple of days and then they move off. Out of the two rhinos, black rhinos are probably the least sociable. You will very seldom ever see black rhinos in a crash of rhinos. Maybe you might, but very small amounts. I've never seen a big crash. It's like I was saying with that fork-tailed dronga, that black bird that's busy flying around there. As we start to go more into winter, it is very difficult for these birds to start to catch insects because of the lack of rain. Just the fact that there's not a lot of insects around. And so while these white rhino are busy feeding in the grass, they'll be flushing insects out of the grass. There we go. It just caught something. Very, very clever. You'll see this very common behavior in winter with fork-tailed drongas, with starlings. At the moment, there's only one fork-tailed dronga here, but I've seen 6 or 7 before following rhinos. So unfortunately, these rhinos didn't walk past us, and it's not because I was speaking. I did mention to you earlier, if I do keep quiet, the rhinos will walk past us. But just look at the area that they're feeding in. This is the patch. There must be a species of grass here that is very nutritious. It looks like that little mound over there that they're feeding over is an old termite mound. And it's very typical to see rhinos feed around more so active termite mounds, because the termites are bringing nutrients into the ground, and the ground is filled with nitrogen through all that cycle. It's a bit of a long story about how that all happens, but it basically puts lots of nutrients into the ground, and therefore the grass around the termite mound is very rich. And so that's often why you'll see white rhinos feed around termite mounds. Oh, we've got a second fork-tailed dronga in to feed here. So Emma, age 6, very good question that actually. Why do rhinos leave them home, or more so, let's rather say their mother, when they're 3 years old? So just before the mother has a baby, Emma, she wants to kick that older calf out. And the reason is because when she gives birth to a new baby, it's really, really small, and she might worry that the older calf could accidentally injure her new baby. But because the baby's very small, the bones aren't still as strong, and it would worry for its new baby's safety. And so Emma, that is why she will kick it out, just to protect her new baby. That being said, in about 6 months or so, once that baby's big enough and strong enough to be able to be able to not be injured when they do play with each other, she will happily allow another rhino calf that has recently been kicked out. So this calf that's in the front here, it's just starting to grow its secondary horn now, so I think this calf is probably around 6 months or so. Might be a little bit younger than that. but you can see the mother's more than happy to have this other calf join in with them. She's shown no signs of aggression towards that calf. You will notice that her calf does tend to generally stick closer to her, where the other calf does tend to stick at a little bit of a distance away. That is not because that other calf is not, or it's not because that other calf is afraid of the mother. It is just because the calf of this mother has a closer bond to her. And so she just wants to always stick nice and close. Now, what is very exciting about where we are right now is not only do we have 3 rhinos right in front of us, maybe 200 meters up ahead, we have a pride of lions. We're actually on our way to view the pride of lions. It's the ones that were feeding on the wildebeest a couple of days ago. And while we were driving towards them off-road, we were lucky enough to have these 3 rhinos walk right past us. So within 100 meters of each other, we've got 2 of the big 5, which is so exciting. We were secretly hoping that these rhinos would walk in the direction of those lions, not because I think that the lions would try and hunt the rhinos, but it's always fun to see. Victoria, no. The saddler calf wouldn't feed from the lactating female because at that age it has been weaned before. That being said, I have seen one try sneakily drink before, and the mother chased it away. She knows that that milk is for her calf. Her calf needs as much of that milk to grow up as quickly as it can and be as strong as it can, and to allow another calf to drink that milk would potentially mean that her calf doesn't get all the nutrients that it needs. So, yep, he was trying to be sneaky, but no, they wouldn't suckle from their mother. So just to get back to what I was saying, another question. So butterfly, a rhino within a month, 2 months old, you can already start to see the primary horn, which is the horn that's in the front, start to grow. And then at about 6 months, closer to a year, you'll start to see the secondary horn start to grow. But when they are born, the front of their face, where the horn would be, is completely flat. But technically the horn is there, but it just hasn't started to grow yet. Yeah, so like I was saying earlier, the reason why I was hoping these rhino would go off to the lions is not because I thought the lions would attack them. I'd hate to watch a lion attack a rhino, just because how precious rhinos are and how slowly but surely they're becoming more and more endangered, is that this mother may have chased the lions away. She could recognize the potential danger of those lions towards her calf, and so she could chase it away. But actually most of the times I've seen lions and rhinos come in contact with each other, the rhino walks right past the lions. The lions duck down, hoping that the rhinos don't see them, and then they walk on by. So it's always very exciting. They're together. You don't know what's going to happen, but for most parts, not too much happens. And once again, you can see they haven't left this patch that I was telling you about, this little rhino lawn. So I'm sure that they're going to feed here for quite some time, and then from here, once they've finished feeding, they'll probably go find a nice comfortable place in an open area to sleep.
Wild Earth relies on support from viewers like you to carry on broadcasting our daily live shows. A small donation goes a long way in helping us on our mission to connect the world with nature. Please visit our support page to see how you can help and become part of the Wild Earth family.
We found exactly what we were looking for, and I have to say, I am so excited. This is a Burroughs eagle owl, and it's a first for me, everyone. After spending all my time with little Sebwick, spotted eagle owl, this is my first Burroughs eagle owl. Now, I've seen them on the jam cam, but I've actually never had a sighting of one, so this is really exciting. You can see he's roosting. He's got his eyes closed. How sweet. Now, I believe this particular individual has been spotted regularly here. So we knew it was in the area. We've been so lucky enough to come by and actually get to see it. Now, it's very difficult to tell if it's male or female because the sexes are so alike. The females are said to be 10% larger, though. So if you had a pair, because they are said to be monogamous, and they were standing next to one another, you would be able to see that the female is larger. But sadly, we only have one. It's very, very tricky to tell. This is so wonderful.
We're going to stop for a break on KMP boundary.
Oh, someone just announcing their sundowners. My apologies. Now I'm just scanning around to see if we can see the other one. Most owls are monogamous. And both the male and the female, they may not stay together in the same tree, but they do stay in visual contact with one another. Now, last year we got to watch, or even a little bit of this year, we got to watch a spotted eagle owl chick grow up. And we found it very, very young. We found it at 2 weeks old. And we got to watch it grow up. So wouldn't it be amazing if we got to do the same with a Verreaux's eagle owl? It's a great way to learn about these animals. Now, owls are classified as raptors as well because they use their talons to capture prey. And then, of course, they eat with their sharp beak. Look how sharp that is. Now I can tick this off my wish list, everyone, and add it to my bird list. Jackal, you're asking, do Verreaux's eagle owls migrate? And I don't believe that they do. They're not so uncommon in this area. We do have them. It's just I haven't been so lucky before. So they're fairly widespread, but they don't migrate. They're residents here. And they are nocturnal, which means that during the day, they will be roosting just exactly like this one. Perched in a tree and resting. Anushka, you're asking how strong are the eagle owl talons? I'm not entirely sure how to answer that, but because they're raptors, they use their talons. That's actually how they capture their prey, using their talons, and then they will use their beak. So Verreaux's eagle owls in particular, they will prey upon lots of different animals, from monkeys, can you believe it? Yes, vervet monkeys, to all sorts of other mammals, including warthog piglets. So they are ferocious carnivores, and they grab their prey, they seize their prey, which is actually where the word raptor comes from, using their talons. So Anushka, I think I can say that they're extremely strong. I hope that answers your question. So I think we're going to sit here for a little bit longer and admire this beautiful owl.
So they have moved just slightly further from where they were feeding, but once again you can see that they've come to an area where it looks like there must have been an ancient termite mound, where there's a bit of a raised area, and you can see how all around that mound maybe these rhinos or other rhinos have been grazing away. Now, isn't that just such a spectacular view, everybody? So just to give you a little bit of perspective, is off in the distance, just on the other side of that hill that you can see, is the ocean. So I don't think there's too many places in the world where you can view a rhino like this, a white or black rhino, and in the horizon have the ocean. Absolutely spectacular. We have the sun setting behind us. Unfortunately, today, not the most beautiful sunset, but every sunset is beautiful in Africa, I guess. And in front of us, we have 3 magnificent white rhinos and a view to die for, with big sand dunes off in the distance, lots of rolling hills, and 3 prehistoric looking creatures. Steph, so Phinda does have a very healthy population of white rhinos. We're very fortunate here to have both white and black rhinos. But the exact number of white rhinos, I couldn't tell you that we have on the reserve, but that's for security purposes. But I can tell you that we do have a very healthy population. There's one thicket, and all 3 rhinos have decided to go stand right behind that thicket. Lisa, I couldn't agree with you more. Of all the animals I watch, I find watching rhinos is one of the most peaceful experiences you can have, unless they're fighting, of course. But for most part, it's almost, when I just sit here and watch and don't say anything, it almost feels like I'm meditating. It is very peaceful, particularly white rhinos when they're in open areas like this. The view is typically beautiful. They're eating grass and just grazing away. They don't make too much noise. You will occasionally hear them chomping away. They're very noisy eaters in that sense. If they were at the dinner table with me, I'd be quite frustrated. They go, but you do only really hear that when you're really close to them. At this distance from here, I can hardly hear anything. Meryl, they are most certainly playing hide and seek. It always fascinates me how such a big animal, like elephants for an example, or white rhinos and black rhinos, for their size, how they can completely disappear. And I guess it's just that grey, neutral color. If they stand near to a bush or a thicket, they can completely disappear. You will notice that the mother is slightly darker than the 2 calves. I think that's got more to do with mud, old mud that's on her, or the calves were rolling around in some light sand. I think their skin tone, if they had to go for a bit of a swim and wash up any dirt or sand that's on them, their skin tone would all be very similar in color. It's not normally the case that adults are darker than calves. So we were just talking about earlier how peaceful it is to watch rhinos. And one of the things I absolutely love to watch with rhinos is their ears. How they, almost like when I look at the ears, I picture the eyes of a chameleon working independently from each other. And I've always wondered what that must be like, where you can perfectly hear in 2 completely different directions. And because of their poor eyesight, they rely heavily on their hearing that they have. And that's why it's constantly working, listening to what's behind them, what's in front of them, what's behind them, what's in front of them. Megan, I agree. I could also sit back and watch them graze all day long. I think what would be better, Megan, and you'd probably agree, is having a gin and tonic, which is a very typical safari drink, while watching these rhinos. Of course, I can't do that. I'm busy driving at the moment. Right, so I think we're going to sit with them for a little bit longer, see what they do. And then if they continue on feeding here, we might stay a little bit longer. And if not, we'll head off to those lions. But for now, I think let's let someone else have a turn.
We've managed to get closer. And we can hear alarm calls coming from a little bit south from where we are, Batalier, so we may not stay here too long. We may race round and see what's causing a stir, but look at these views. We're right under this eagle house, incredible. My day is made. And we always look for predator, but this is a predator. Out of all the owls that we see out here, potentially all the owls in South Africa actually, the Faroese eagle owl has the ferocious diet, the most ferocious. They really, really are incredible, top-level birds of prey. They don't look it though. Sorry, Londek, I did not get that question. If you could just ask it again. Someone's sleepy. Diesel, yes, they do have predators, and it's mainly larger birds of prey would attack this owl if they could. And that's why they blend into the background here. They roost. And really, it's only if you're looking up that you spot them. And yes, other larger birds of prey, like eagles, any sort of larger bird would absolutely hunt this Faroese eagle owl. But that beak and those talons means that this eagle owl is equipped with its very own weapons. Hello, sleepyhead. Look at those pure black eyes. And those pink eyelids. Looks like it's wearing some very bad 70s eyeshadow. Oh, hello, Forktail Drongo. You're also coming for some camera time. I've been asked this question before, and I don't think it is too well known exactly why they are called eagle owls, because of course they're owls, but I think it's due to the nature and the way that they hunt that they're referred to as eagle owls, but I'm actually not entirely sure. If any of you have any suggestions as to why they're called eagle owls, please do let us know. #WildEarth. Okay, I really don't want to leave this owl, but I do want to see who or what was causing those alarm calls. We can always come back. James, yes, so beautiful. It's lovely to just sit and take this in, especially when you've got the moon just behind. But if we really don't find anyone making those alarm calls, we will come back. Hopefully I won't scare it. There we go. It's still there. Okay, we're just going to take a little bumble along here and see if we can see who was making those alarm calls.
We've just had another herd of buffalo coming in to drink. Only 8 of them. But it's just been like buffalo rolling in and out here all the time. It's absolutely incredible. Another big gemsbuck bull down there coming in. I hope he actually comes and drinks. Sometimes they walk right into the water to drink. I don't know why they would do that. But they walk, like even and your Sable and Roan, we've seen them in this dam walking right up to their bellies in the water instead of drinking on the edge. This time is a very, very good time of day now for things like brown hyena, leopard. So we live in hope. That gemsbok, you can see it's concentrating on something out to that side. So that could be anything. It could be a giraffe, it could be another gemsbok or whatever. But it'll be just worth keeping an eye out in that direction. Unfortunately, the area where we're sitting here, our backstop is this big mound of sand covered in vegetation, so we actually can't see anything. If it approaches us from the rear, you can see quite dense vegetation here, so if something decides to sneak up on us, well, these things happen. So you can just see as we're scanning over there, lots of dove activity. Mostly two kinds of doves, or three kinds that are coming in and out here. Laughing doves, Namakwa doves, and Cape Turtle doves. Those are the kind of when you see these grave things flying up and down, that's what they are. Yeah, Lisa says, very pretty with the sunset on him. Absolutely, it's like a painting. But not my kind of painting, it's like a good painting. Wow. Sure, the temperature's dropping now pretty quickly as well. And we are sitting in this big valley at this dam. This dam's in the bottom of a valley. So the cold air really starts accumulating in these low-lying areas now. I don't know if any of you can recall. Okay. I was just going to say, some of you may recall we were talking about the gemsbok and how they cool, or their cooling system in the nasal cavity. And many people say, the gemsbok can cool its brain down, and it keeps it cooler than the rest of the body, and that's how they survive. It's not entirely true. All they do is they just, I'm going to talk a little bit louder because the gemsbok's moved off this other animal. So all they do, it's interesting, is the hypothalamus, which is the part of the brain. Oh no. Sorry. Guys, we've just missed the coolest duck landing on the planet. He flew straight towards us. I'll continue my gemsbok thought. I'll carry on with my gemsbok thought later, don't worry. But genre, every single time we come to this dam, we've been sitting hoping to get like the ultimate duck shot of this bird landing straight towards us. And while we were focused elsewhere, this duck pulled a blinder on us and he came in dead straight towards us and landed the most perfect landing. Anyway, that was my bad. Again, that struck 2 in 2 days. What's the third one going to be? But anyway, so gemsbok have got this beautiful thing where, and a lot of other animals have got it as well. Wildebeest have got it. There's a number of other species too. And basically, the hypothalamus is what controls the animal's behavior when it gets hot. So when it gets hot, the thing will say, okay, you need to start panting. Because you're getting hot, you need to start panting to reduce your body temperature. The problem with that comes in the moment you start panting, you start losing moisture very, very quickly. You start losing water, and that pretty much starts driving your temperature up even more, and you've got to go find water in and in. So what we call carotid retate does is you've got this beautiful system of veins, vessels in the nasal cavity, okay? And then you've got the blood that passes through these, the veins, vessels that pass through this,
going to the brain. So the idea is, as the animal's breathing, you get this cool air passing through the nasal cavities. It makes it forms a network of the vessels going to the brain. Okay, so it cools the blood going to the brain, but it doesn't cool the brain itself. It's just cooling that area of the hypothalamus. So basically it tricks the brain into thinking the body's actually cooler than it really is. In other words, the animal doesn't start panting, it doesn't start losing moisture, which means it can actually save a lot of moisture. And yes, and that's how it works. Look at all these buffalo coming in. This is the fourth group. Hey, fourth group of buffalo. Fourth group of buffalo we've had while we're sitting here. Excuse me. This is nuts.
Okay guys, so you can see here, we've come back to the pride, and it looks like if you watch these females here, they're stalking something. Now, I don't know what they're stalking, but when we got here, one of the females looped around behind us, as well as one of the youngsters, looped quite far back behind the car, maybe 40 or 50 meters behind the car. And now you can see these two are moving here. I'm going to move my head out of the way somewhat. They're looking very intently to our left, which is the east. Now inside there it's very, very thick. Lots of bushes, lots of grass. I can hear oxpeckers. So oxpeckers, generally on top of things like zebras, buffaloes, impalas, wildebeest, giraffe. I can't see what these lions or lionesses are hunting. But you can see here, both of these two females go that way. Now, way back down there in the distance, one of the other youngsters try to loop around. It's like they're learning to hunt. So one of those other youngsters is also trying to hunt. And it's actually been quite awesome watching these two females almost going straight down the middle. One of the females has looped quite far off to the left or behind us, as I said, and one of the youngsters quite far off in front of us. But now you see that lioness moving. You can see on her back leg, she's got a white dot. Just on the flank of her back leg. The one at the back that you got there, Eddie. Yeah, if you zoom on her back leg. Yeah, there, near the top by the tail. Yeah, there's that white dot. So that white dot, she's the white dot female. She's the one that's the oldest in the pride, sort of in control of the pride. You can see she's got a lot of experience. She's very old. She's about 14 years old, so very, very old. This is her sister. I think I needed to look here, but I think this is her sister closest to us. Great Kong, 100%. I mean, look at this. From where I am right here to where this line is that's moving. It's my bonnet. How long is the bonnet of this car? Maybe 1.5 meters. And she's just sort of walking right there. They barely even look at us. I mean, yes, they are busy hunting, so they're quite focused. I'm whispering here. But I mean, I can hear some impalas, but quite far behind us. Mike. Oh, look. See, whatever they're going is running now. So maybe that other female chased something. You see how quickly, all of them there, okay, I saw impalas in the distance. The impalas are looking to the left where that other female went. You see how quickly that changed for all of them, going from standing still to, you never heard a single noise, and then they went, but they stopped again. The impalas have stopped. The impalas, there, you can hear that, listen. Okay, obviously they stopped again. But now these lionesses, the impalas were sort of coming this direction. And then these lions ran, the impalas stopped, so they stopped. You know, if the impalas are running, the impalas are making their own noise. They're hitting the bushes, they're hitting the leaves, they're moving in the grass, so they're making a lot of noise, which will cover the lion's noise. As soon as they stopped, the lions stopped. I think those impalas just got a fright. They haven't actually seen the lions. I think they just got a fright. there's a cub behind us that's sort of stalking here. Odie, can you pan to the right there quickly? Sorry, look at that. Even the male's looking very interested. There he is, looking regal. Now this would be, James was asking earlier, what I want to see before I leave. If you imagine we see these lionesses catch something, Birmingham Pride catch something, would be a crazy, crazy last drive. So 2 of these lionesses that we have in front of us are now laying down. The one on the right, on far left there, is still, oh, let me move my head. It's still up, she's still looking, she's still stalking slowly. I don't know if, there, listen. The impalas were alarm calling again. So you see, there's the one lioness lying down. Only if you go hard left here, there's the other lioness. See, that one's moving now, the one on the left there. Now that's a cub. So that's one of the youngsters that we now have there. Now look at him, he's so interested there. He can hear, there's actually 2 of them there. And this is so important, this learning, guys. This is like, you know, the fact, listen. I don't know if you can hear that. That like snorting, sneezing. That is the impalas. Alarm calling. Yeah, that's the impalas that are alarm calling. They're quite far from us. I think maybe 100. No, I saw them, so maybe like 80 meters away. You can see those cubs. Eddie, can you see the other lioness slightly right? Yeah, 3. Slightly more right. There's another lioness in there somewhere. I mean, that camouflage. There she is. So zoom in there. Further right. Down. No, there you had her. There. So there, is that a lioness? I think so. Maybe. There's a lioness in there, guys, I promise. Okay, so I think there might have been a question there. I didn't copy that, though. Okay, so you can see now, if you listen carefully, the impalas are alarm calling a lot. Anushka, one of my favorites. So Anushka wants to know, do lions only use their back claws while hunting? No, they actually use their front claws the most, Anushka, because now they're running and then they sort of leap on and grab with their front paws. So they use those front claws to sort of latch on to whatever animal they're hunting, try and bring it down, try and trip it. So it's mainly their front paws that they use. Very seldomly, something like a buffalo or giraffe, they might jump on top of, and then yes, they will use their back claws, Anushka, but otherwise it's just the front paws. I think soon we're going to see a little dash here. Those impalas are alarm calling a lot, and they might have seen the other female that will try and chase them this way towards the rest of these lionesses. The cubs have moved off into the far distance. Oh, male's getting involved here in front of us. He's coming just around the front of the car here. So there's his body, that's his head there. You can see how high he is, very, very tall. Now, he's obviously very, very keen, especially something like an impala. Now you can hear the whole herd of impala. But an impala is not very big. You know, maybe 50, 60 kilograms at the most. It's not enough to feed all of these lions. This guy here will try and steal the food and eat all of it. So we might, if they do catch something, we might see a bit of a battle amongst the females, him, that sort of thing. But if he just walks in like that, most likely he's going to ruin the hunt. So okay, it was a perfect timing though. It's getting dark, the sun's behind us. This area is all in shade. It's very thick. Look how brown it is. I mean, you saw that male walk in there, and look at his camouflage. It's a good opportunity for the lions to catch something now. I mean, it's to be able to witness this will be crazy. Oh.
So while watching the start of a hunt, now we're busy looking at what the end product of a successful hunt is. Unfortunately for lions, for most parts, their hunts aren't successful, depending on area to area, I guess, and pride to pride and what they're hunting, but the success rate is quite low, probably around only about 30%, 35%. And at the moment, we've got a young female feeding on the remains of a wildebeest carcass, a wildebeest that they presumably killed about 2 days ago. And she is, I think, more interested in playing with her food at the moment than feeding. We've got another female that's actually on her way here now. It's going to be interesting to see what happens. Often what you'll find is when there's only a little bit of meat left, like in this case, maybe only one or two of them will feed at a time. Because so at the moment there's 6 lions here, 2 adults and 4 youngsters of about a year and a half. When there's 6 of them trying to feed, there's not much space and meat left, and they can get quite aggressive towards each other. And so this young female who's playing with her food at the moment is waiting for her brother to stop feeding, and he stopped about 2 minutes ago, and now she's taking the opportunity to try and feed. Now it's a little bit difficult to know whether she's actually playing with her food or what she's trying to do is pull the carcass, get it onto the side, as to expose some different parts of the carcass where she might be able to get some meat. The fact that she's licking at the carcass is an indicator that she is indeed still trying to find something to feed on. But I think that the head of the buffalo moving around is causing her to can't help but play with her food. Yep, Elizabeth, she is being silly indeed. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to keep quiet for a minute. There's some wonderful sounds at the moment, nocturnal birds, insects, hippos calling in the background, and we might be able to hear the sounds of her crunching and the thudding at the carcass. So let's listen for a minute or so. You can hear her panting. Yeah. That's her busy panting. The grass below her as she rolls around, the occasional tooth into the skin of the carcass, which about 2 days now is probably quite hard and almost leather-like. There we go, we just had some hippos calling off in the distance. Ooh, 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 ooh. Ooh. You could hear how her chest was being compressed there while she flicked her head from side to side. You can actually hear her busy sniffing in the carcass there, trying to see if she can smell any meat or smell what's inside the carcass. She's feeding now. Actually hear her tearing. There must be a little bit of meat where she's got to now. Maybe she's tearing at some of the fat that's just below the skin layer. This female is around a year and a half now. All 4 of the youngsters that are here were born around the same time, and it is pretty much a year and a half ago now. So they're almost at the age where they're going to be able to properly help their 2 mothers, or the 2 females that are here currently while hunting. At about a year and a half, they're still really watching from the distance, trying to help. but not being too effective. Closer to about 2.5 years is when they're really going to be able to play an important role in this pride, with providing for the rest of the pride. Absolutely loving while watching her play and feed is watching how her tail's flicking from side to side, how she's keeping it up in the air and flicking it occasionally. Alright, so what I'm going to do is I do have a spotlight, and my spotlight does have a red filter on it. And the reason why we put a red filter on our spotlight, because it doesn't harm the eyes of the lion at all. In the color spectrum, red is the color that is least harmful to the mammalia eye. So I'm going to put the spotlight on, and I'm not going to shine it directly on her, but I'm just going to shine a little bit in front, just to allow for some better light, so you can see her feeding.
Okay, so we managed to catch up with them. So they, well, were unsuccessful in their hunt. I think maybe that young male, I think it ended just before he got there, but he just walked straight up through the middle. He didn't try and stalk, he didn't try and go around, he just walked right up through the middle. You can see they stopped here, but not something. So there was 2 females behind us. So I think those 2 females may have called, and now they're all heading back that direction. Well, not all of them, there's still 4 young ones here. As you can see, a number of them went back. That's it, I mean, you can imagine areas this thick, the lions spread out to hunt. They do get separated. So I haven't heard any, but you might hear some soft contact calls as they're trying to find each other. These ones just seem to be playing here a little bit. Well, now they're mostly all getting up, going there. A little bit irritated. I mean, that's just where we came from. I just drove through all of that to get here. And now they're just heading back there. Much easier for them than it is for us, obviously. Just there, you see, you can hear some calling. Very, very soft calling, more just like a hum. And you can all see that we're actually in a night vision mode at the moment. Okay, so we got a question. I didn't catch the name there, but they wanted to know, do these lions hunt daily? No, not really. You know, if they catch something like a buffalo, then they're not going to hunt for, like another, look at the little white one on the tree. Then they're going to hunt for, not hunt for like 2 or 3 days. So it depends what they catch. You know, if they caught impala tonight, then they'll probably hunt again tomorrow, yes, because an impala is not much food, especially not for 13 lions. So then they'll hunt. If they're just catching impala, then yes, they'll most likely hunt every day. If they're catching things like buffaloes, zebras, giraffes, something like that, then, they don't need to hunt every day. So it just depends a lot on what they're catching. But now they're heading back. I think they are heading back to where we first saw them. So I'm going to actually go to the road, which should... So I just want to see if there are any lions coming out here.
watching these lapwings feeding along the edge of the water. This light is gorgeous. It's actually gone down, so there's no sunlight on here, but the colours and the wind has died, so the reflection is just off the charts now. Absolutely beautiful, this. And these lapwings are feeding up and down and up and down. But what's interesting, there should be 2 adults here and then 3 youngsters. But I'm not seeing that. I'm just seeing 2 foraging at the moment. So I don't know where the youngsters are. They might be on the other side of the dam where we can't see them now. Such a peaceful time of day now. Yo. That last herd of buffalo that came in, there were 15 of them. So they just drank. They actually walked quite far into them, drank, and then they left about 10 minutes ago. And you would never think they're there. Now you look at it, it's just birds and bush. I'm actually very surprised that we haven't even had a jackal coming in yet. And normally by this time you would have had 2 or 3 jacks moving in and out of the area. So I wonder if there's not a kill somewhere fairly close by. That would be interesting. That could be a reason why, if they focus somewhere else, they might not come down to drink. Look at that reflection, How beautiful is that? Oh, it's a giraffe, another massive giraffe bull coming in to drink. Oh my word, look at this, look at this. Yeah. Neva has asked, do we find animals up in those hills that we don't normally see? Yeah, we've got lots of different ones that live up there. It's not everyone's cup of tea, but we've got a very, very special snake that lives here called the black spitting cobra. And in 15 years on Swan, I've probably seen 6 or 7 of them. So that they up in the hills, very, very difficult to see. And because very few people go up there, you don't see them often. But then we've got beautiful little antelope called klipspringer. They live up in there, go in these little family groups. Mountain reedbuck. We've got a gorgeous little rabbit, a true rabbit, called a Smith's red rock rabbit. And those Smith's red rock rabbits are strictly associated with these rocky areas. So yeah, there's a lot of things that live up there that we don't normally see. And then of course other things like Hartman's mountain zebra. And some of you may have seen them with us already. If we see more, we'll try and point them out. But look at this reflection, Wow, wow, wow. John, you should turn the camera upside down again, the right way around. Because at the moment it's upside down, so that's the real giraffe. What a... Reddit Aged 8 has asked, why did giraffe have blue tongues? I have absolutely no idea. And I think I'm going to actually try and find that answer out. Why did giraffe have blue tongues? And if you look at dogs, of course, some dogs species, or not species, they're all the same species, but some dog breeds have got like weird different kinds of coloured tongues. So what would be the advantage?
Yeah, I just want to see what she's going to do. Wildebeest still there. She like, leave me alone. Welcome back, everyone. So we've just managed to find a jackal nearby. Sorry, that's why I was busy shining away from where this lion was. There's a side-striped jackal coming in to investigate what has happened, and in that time, the one female went and joined her sister just behind the carcass, and the young male has now just come to see if there's an opportunity for him to feed. So earlier on he was playing with it, more so than feeding. I wonder what he's going to do now. Maybe he's hoping that when that female was trying to feed, she has exposed a little bit more of the carcass where he can feed. Oh, he's listening off to the left. So where he was listening now is where the rest of the pride is. So I wonder if one of the other females is up and walking this way, or his brother. I can hear something to my left. Just going to see what it is. I'll come back to the lions now. Can't see anything, but I can hear something walking in the long grass. So maybe one of the other lions is slowly heading this way. It always fascinates me how at night time sound travels so far. See, he's busy looking off to the right. That is the direction where that jackal was coming from. So I'm sure that they can hear the jackal walking in the grass. I'm just going to have a quick scan. Yep, the jackal's still there, but they're not looking at the jackal. Very interesting. Look at their body behavior. So that is behavior that they're interested in something. They've definitely heard or seen something off in the distance. I don't think it's the jackal, so they're looking straight ahead. The jackal would be more 45 degrees to their right. I wonder if it's the second male lion that we haven't seen the last 2 days. Maybe he's coming in. I don't see anything. And those three rhinos were around here earlier. So I'm not sure if there could be an antelope around. So if there is a wildebeest or zebra, I am going to take the spotlight off of them, just to give them a good opportunity or fair opportunity to hunt. But judging by the way that they're standing at the moment, they aren't hunting, but they're on a sort of very aware posture. So I'm not sure what it is. With these being the youngsters as well, I mean, they're not very good at hunting yet. If it was the adult females, I would have turned my spotlight off straight away. These youngsters probably wouldn't be able to catch something anyway. Now they're looking at the jackal. So let's see if the jackal's still there. That jackal is running off. I think it's seen the lions looking at them and now has decided to move. Yep, see, he's seen, or she's seen the jackal. With them being young lions, they are very inquisitive and they'll often try to hunt anything that they think is possible to hunt. That jackal is very aware that they're here, and he would or she would battle to catch that jackal. So I'm not really concerned about the lions catching the jackal. You very seldom ever see that happen. It only really happens when the jackal is caught unaware. Maybe it's sleeping or feeding and the lions manage to sneak up behind it. You see that posture of dropping its head down, trying to get as low down to the ground as possible. I think that this lion might think that maybe these jackals don't know I'm here, but those jackals definitely do know that they're there. Yuzo, this pride consists of 4 adult females, then 4 juvenile cubs of about 1.5 years, and then it is, I'm trying to remember, it was 3 youngsters. Sorry, 5 newborn cubs around, or not newborn, but around 3 months old. So it is the 4 adults, 4 juveniles, 5 cubs, and then the 2 dominant male lions, which dominate both this pride and the pride that is further south from here. So that jackal has completely ran off. Oh, the jackal's now coming up behind our vehicle. And this jackal has a little bit of a death wish. So there's a different jackal behind us. So that's not the same one that I saw running off earlier. Oh, there's after the jackal. The jackal's gone. Yep, that jackal was very much aware that these lions are around, and it was walking at about 30 meters or so away from the lions, and that's the distance that that jackal knows that if these lions get a little bit closer, I'll just keep moving away, and 30 meters is that sort of comfortable range that that jackal feels from these lions. Anything closer, that jackal may feel a little bit more threatened by these lions. But fortunately for a jackal, although they're maybe not as fast as a lion, the top speed of a lion is much faster than that of a jackal, but with them being much smaller, they're more agile and they can change directions, and that is why it is very difficult for a lion to catch a jackal. It's amazing how quickly they digest. When I saw this female yesterday morning, that was a very, very full belly. And although it is quite full, and you can see it's sort of swaying from side to side, she has had quite a bit of digestion since yesterday to today. And that belly looks about half the size. Oh, lovely. Give her some privacy. She has a toilet break there. Very typical. You saw how runny that feces was, and often when lions are feeding on a carcass, their scat or their feces is very runny. She's coming up to investigate the vehicle. Very typical of a young lion. An adult lion wouldn't care. Oh, and then she disappears in front of our bonnet. And let's go back to the male. He's the young male. He's busy feeding, so the brother of this female. And then behind him is his sister. And then the other three are all lying off to the left. Shenzi, so this is a very interesting question, and it's a bit of a debate that I've had. So I think in documentaries, for some, lions are portrayed as the males or the lazy ones. Females do the bulk of the hunting. And yes, I think on average the females do hunt more than the males. But in my experience, I've seen males hunt just as often as females. And the males are an integral part in hunting. So they, particularly when killing larger prey like buffalo, maybe a young or medium-sized giraffe, the males are very important for their size and their weight to be able to pull down such a large prey. But I think what the males do is actually quite intelligent. So the reason why when they are with the females, because when they're not with the females, males are very capable of hunting. They'll hunt every 2 or 3 days when they need to feed. But when they're with the females, I think they recognize the importance of letting the females hunt and them sort of watching off from the distance, because the advantage that gives the males is that the females exert so much energy that when the male can come running over to feed on the carcass, he's the one who's got all the energy. He can outpower the rest of the pride that is busy feeding. And then there's also the other advantage, I guess, is that the females have used all their energy to kill or pull down the prey and run after it, that if another pride of lions comes by or a clan of hyenas, the male who has saved a lot of his energy would be able to defend his kill and his pride much better against other predators. So I think that's probably why the males tend to do less hunting than the females. It's not because they're not capable. It is just because they recognize the importance of not using up all that energy that's needed. Because, for example, this young male over here and his brother, when they're going to get kicked out in probably about a year's time, they're going to have to hunt for themselves for the next 2 or 3 years until they have their own pride. And obviously if they weren't good hunters, they would never survive. So I think they are almost as good as the females, although probably the females are maybe slightly better. They're a little bit quicker. But I think the males are just smart and they recognize the need to save energy if needed. He's looking over his shoulder. I'm just quickly going to pan away from him to see. There we go. So it looks like one of the adult females is walking over here. So she's not walking straight towards the carcass, but maybe coming to investigate, hoping that none of the youngsters were feeding. And I wouldn't be surprised if she doesn't come and lie in this open patch over here and just sit and wait for the young male to finish feeding. Let's see, maybe she's going to prove me wrong and go feed with him. A little bit of growling. But not too much growling. There was just a little bit of growling. She came over, gave a bit of a grunt towards him. Consulting, the simple answer to why there are no hyenas around here is probably that no hyenas have picked up on the scent of this carcass. I mean, there are hyenas in this area. While we've been sitting here, we've actually heard hyenas whooping off in the distance. But the fact that they're not here is possibly because they just haven't smelt the carcass. It is a very big reserve, and the hyenas have very big territories that they move between, and they're not always going to pick up on the scent or find carcasses that are around. Had vultures landed here, I would have expected then maybe the hyenas to come, because hyenas would see the vultures landing and that would attract them towards this carcass. But strangely, there is no vultures here either. So it is just these 6 lions and the 2 jackal that we've seen. Michael, lions are more than capable of climbing trees. They're not as elegant as a leopard might be when climbing a tree, or particularly when climbing down a tree, but they do not drag their kills into trees. I've seen lions climb trees to steal kills from leopards, and instead of feeding on the kill in the tree, they actually drop it out the tree and feed on the ground. So that's where they're comfortable to feed on the kill. The reason why leopards drag kills into the trees is to keep them away from hyenas. Whereas a big male a hyena would easily be able to steal a kill from a leopard on the ground, where they won't steal a kill from a lion on the ground. All right, everyone. Well, I trust that you've enjoyed today with us, and we look forward to seeing you tomorrow on the Sunrise Safari.